you, Gina. Very nice to be here.
Nice to see you. First of all, because I did tell everyone that you're a graduate from UCC.
Yes.
Tell them a little bit about that UCC student that you were.
Sure. So I was a graduate in UCC. I studied finance for 4 years here. And actually, I was in the same class as Eleanor, who you saw from MTV. So we both graduated in 2012.
And did you know each other back in the day?
We did, yes,
Yay.
absolutely.
Were
So
you in the
really
same
lovely.
societies?
Not the same societies, no. I actually joined our snow sports club.
My
I was
gosh.
also like a first-year class rep and part of the French society. So a little bit different. But
Talk about the importance of being involved. Okay, let me back up to the Laura that started at UCC.
Yeah.
Were you outgoing and an accomplished professional speaker at that time when you're 18 years old graduating from secondary
Oh, like
school?
everybody is, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, not at all. I think when I actually joined university, I was just really keen to like meet new people and make new friends. And so that's why I really got involved in those clubs and societies. But you know, it was a fantastic opportunity just to learn new things, to kind of step up, become a bit more visible, kind of expand your network. But I think at that time, I had no idea that's what I was doing. I just enjoyed skiing. So I thought, well, this will be fun. I'll get part of the club and kind of like go on these ski trips once a year, which was really good fun. And in my first year, I was just so excited to be finished my leaving cert and be in this new world. And like, I loved going out to all the different clubs. Like, I loved to dance. So, you know, like every Thursday we were heading out, maybe every Tuesday, Wednesday, who knows. But it was just so amazing. It was like the best fun. So my first year was definitely like integrating into university and having a lot of fun and really enjoying that kind of social element of being in university. And then it was like second year, I kind of realized I needed to kind of study a little bit more, knuckle down a little bit more, and kind of prepare for third year, which is when you have your placement, and then fourth year finally graduating.
When you were in your placement, was there anything particular that you were involved in or that you got placed in that led to some of your career choices later on? Talk about that experience.
Sure. So I actually worked in Apple's headquarters here in Cork. So I worked in the finance team. And it was quite surprising because everyone there was actually very casual. Like you'd see people pretty much walking around in almost like pajamas, which was quite interesting. And I worked with like their accounting team, and they were doing like a global accounts and things like that. And it definitely taught me that I didn't want to be an accountant.
Okay.
So that was something interesting to know when you're studying finance and accounting. But that was a good eye-opener because it meant when I was going to look for jobs in my final year, I knew what I didn't want. And sometimes, even if you have experiences in your life that aren't great, or you can always learn from them and at least know what you don't want, so that you can at least get clear on what it is that you actually do want to do.
Absolutely. And so you knew you didn't want to do that from the time you were in the third year, but you still got your degree in that.
Yeah, so I still qualified in finance and then ended up working in Deloitte in Dublin, but I joined their corporate finance team. So it was very different. It was much more transactional type work, working on different types of deals. And honestly, the accounting part of my qualification, it's a great backbone. It's a great understanding to know how businesses work and operate, but it didn't actually form the core piece of work that I was doing.
Okay, and then so once you were in Deloitte, and now you're your first job out of school, really after the diploma, then are you beginning to think, what's Laura going into next? Do I want to get over to, because you're based in London now, right?
Yes, that's right.
How do those wheels start turning as a potential example for others who are sitting here today?
Sure. So when I joined Deloitte, as many of you may know, when you work in a Big Four, you actually also do your chartered accountancy exams with them. So honestly, in my first 3.5 years, I was very focused on just passing my exams and getting to the next level, and keep moving up that ladder within the company. So in terms of like big long-term goals, I was very short-term focused at that point in my life. And I wasn't too sure until kind of my third year working there, like what was the bigger picture going to be for me?
And that's a comfort, I think, for some students who might be sitting there right now thinking, oh, I don't have, Dermot was talking earlier from Gym Plus Coffee, have that goal. I mean, maybe you think, I don't have a big long-term plan goal at this moment, but that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely, and that actually served me really well because if I had been so strict to my 5-year plan or my 10-year plan, I never would be doing what I'm doing now, and I absolutely love the work that I'm doing. So I think it's really important to know what kind of things you want to do, like what type of experiences you want to have, and kind of keep moving in that direction. But if you don't know what your ultimate, career is going to look like, that's okay. And especially in today's world, I think it was mentioned earlier by Ian, like the jobs of the future are not even existing yet. So know what you're passionate about, know what kind of skills you have, what experiences you'd like. and then just keep moving forward in that direction. And opportunities just appear for you, and they do unfold as you move forward.
And do they just appear, or do you need to be someone who's a little bit working visibly? Talk to me back when you were in Deloitte.
100%.
Talk to me about networking. Talk to me about how you began to create a bit of awareness of, hey, Laura is not just that quiet girl in the corner that we don't know what she does. Do you know what I mean?
100%. So if anyone ever does study finance, remember this NPV, right? So this is something that's going to be really helpful for you in your career. And you think about your network, your personal brand, and visibility. And there are really 3 key pillars that are going to be so important for you in being successful in your career.
Say those letters again and
So,
make it an
yeah,
underscore. Pay
absolutely.
attention, guys.
So NPV, just remember that. So it's your network, your personal brand, and visibility. And I know we spoke earlier about the different companies building business brands. But each of you, whether even if you're working within a company, your own personal brand is actually so important. It is so key for your own, whether you decide to stay within that company and continue to move forward, or whether you decide to change careers, start your own business, whatever it is, having a unique brand for you that you can carry through that journey is so, so key.
And I think it's really important to underscore what you're saying right now, to remind you that you don't have to be a celebrity to have a brand.
No.
You don't have to be a high visible profile person to have a brand, but you have to internally know what you stand for, what your values are, how you're purposefully standing for that and communicating that, because whether or not you are deliberately doing this, by default, people are making presumptions about you. So taking control of it is key, because it's happening with or without us, isn't it?
100%. I mean, people are judging you, making their own perception about you, when you first meet them. So you want to make sure that you're intentional about what that is, and that, even when you're turning up on social media, on your LinkedIn, that it's very clear about who you are, what you stand for, so that opportunities that are present and that could be perfect for you, that people know to reach out to you, people know to connect with you, or you're at least aware of what might be the right next step for you.
And it doesn't mean that you have to be super braggy.
No.
But it does mean that you have to try to connect. Purpose.
100%. And this is where the visibility part comes in. So you
Talk about what you did then to do that, once you became aware of those 3 letters.
Yes, and absolutely. And I'll just be honest, when I joined Deloitte in Dublin, I had no idea about this. And this is why I'm so passionate about, sharing this with people, especially who are earlier on in their careers, is because it took me a really long time to figure this out.
Okay.
And I know if I'd had this awareness maybe at the start, I would have just moved through my career without so much stress, without the confusion maybe, and it would have been an easier start in my career journey. But the network is another part I think is so, so crucial, in both within your organization and just on that point, never be afraid to network at the more senior levels. Don't think you just have to stay networking at your peer group. Have the confidence to go and speak with your director, with your partner, and let them know what you're doing, what work you're doing, what you're engaged in. And I promise you, 9 times out of 10, they really are open to hearing that. And also your network outside, so within your industry. And that can be at your peer level. Everyone's going to rise together, so it's nice to have that network as you go along. But also at the more senior level is also within your industry, because this is your career, and whether you decide to stay with your company or you decide to start your own business like I did, having that network is really a backbone to everything you decide to do.
So you're at Deloitte. We'll take you back for a second.
Yes.
Because you just mentioned you've started your own, you've got your own business now. And I know I follow you on LinkedIn, and I've read a little bit about your background and how you made that leap into starting your own business. But I would love for you to share that transition moment or that aha moment and how you pushed through your own fear to launch something on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of just want to start that story, I guess, with touching on mindset. This has been brought up a couple of times already today about the importance of really investing in your own mindset. And I could not emphasize that more. Because for me, that was really the turning point in my career and in my life. We actually both know Frankie Sheehan. So he has the Pendulum Summit in Dublin. And it was this big conference that I went to back when I was working in Deloitte. And I had the privilege of seeing Tony Robbins live. And I had never known who Tony Robbins was until that point.
Interesting.
And he opened my mind to a new way of thinking, a new way of performing, and a new way of living in life. And I became so just in awe with this man and what he was doing. I actually ended up traveling the world and working with him for the next 18 months in my own spare time, obviously aside to work. But that change in mindset and actually investing in my own personal growth, my own personal development, enabled me to kind of pivot in my career, and I ended up moving to London, and that was when my career really took off.
Now, when you said you ended up moving to London, again, I
did.
want to draw that back for
Absolutely.
a second. Where was Laura at the time? Were you still with Deloitte? You traveled around with Tony, but then you decided, what was it about I decided? What did you need to sell? What did you need to do? How did you make that happen?
So there were two things for me when I worked back in Dublin, and with all due respect, amazing people I worked with, but I had that moment where I looked around the office, and honestly, there was no one there I aspired to be like.
Okay.
There was no one whose job I really wanted, and so I really had to question myself, well, what am I working so hard for if there's no role that I really desire to have? So that was a bit of a push factor, and I knew I just wanted, if I came back to the 19-year-old me who first joined finance, like, why did I want to do finance in the first place? What kind of career had I imagined for myself? And I was like, oh, I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to be working on big deals. I wanted this really like exciting international finance career that I'd always dreamt of. So I became very clear in like, what type of career do I want to create? So I had that push and pull factor working together. And so when the opportunity presented itself to move to London, I just absolutely grabbed it and moved. I moved pretty much over the space of a weekend.
Okay.
And yeah, I was living on a friend's couch for the first 3 months. So
Okay, see, that's important because sometimes, again, I think we sit there and we see someone glam, she went from UCC, but I can't possibly relate to this because she went on this whole other trajectory that I can't relate to. But
God,
saying
no.
something, yes, saying something real,
Yeah,
that you slept,
100%.
you did it, and you slept on somebody's couch.
Okay, so my first day arriving in London,
Here we go.
yeah, this is the reality of what it actually looked like for me, because it might all look very shiny and lovely when you look at LinkedIn and things like that. But my first evening, I arrived in London, I literally had gotten the offer and was on the next plane out, and my mobile phone had been cut off, so they hadn't like changed over the service provider, so I had no internet connection. I walked out of the tube station. I hadn't really ever been to London that much before, so I didn't know my way around. It became absolute pouring down rain,
Oh my God.
thunder and lightning, and I'm standing outside Tower Bridge tube station on my own with my suitcase and no phone connection, and I have no idea where I'm going. And so I'm like this like wet person just walking around, roaming the streets. And yes, we're all lovely and friendly here in Cork. Not quite the same in London. If you try and go talk to people, they can be a little bit more hesitant to really engage with you. So I literally was like knocking on office buildings, trying to get concierges out to like, can you please direct me where I'm going? So I looked a bit crazy.
But see, this is an important story.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise you think, oh, and there was a car that took her and picked her up from the train station
Yes.
right to this lovely new job. But what, okay, so I want the rest of the story.
Yeah, so that
Did you
was
finally
the-
get a concierge who was kind enough to
I
direct you?
did.
What happened?
Oh, I mean, this whole like start of the journey was so funny, but I actually love it because, you know, I think when you can go through those experiences and survive it, it's like it builds so much resilience for you.
Of course.
So I finally find my way to the hotel, and I'm like, oh, I'm finally here. It's so exciting. And I open up the blinds to like take in London City, and there's a picture of like, there's a view of a brick wall right in front of me. So that is my first experience in London evening. And the next morning, actually just to make matters even more wonderful, the next morning I was due to go to this big bank meeting, and we were actually pitching for a client, so I was straight into the kind of depths of it. And it had been cold in Dublin, and I flew over to London, and it was absolutely boiling hot. I had this big heavy suit on me, and I turn up to this client running across town with two men who were about 6'5", walking at a fierce pace, and I'm in heels trying to keep up with them, which was a big mistake on my part, so never wear heels when you're running across town. And I arrive into this big board meeting, and I'm not only the only woman there, I'm also the youngest by about 20 years, and it's this big, like, overbearing, like, conference desk, and the introductions start. Hi, I'm John, 20 years working in restructuring. Hi, I'm Mike, I'm 15 and a half years. And then it comes around to me, and I'm thinking, well, I'm about 20 minutes working in this. Like, what do I even say?
Yes.
So this like panic was coming up, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to play it really, really cool, just breathe and use all the things that Tony Robbins would have taught me, and just said, I'm relatively new to restructuring, and just left it at that. And that was kind of the start of the introduction. So that was the start of my journey in London. Thankfully, it did get smoother as time went on.
And so that story in of itself, I think, is so powerful to remind each of you that it doesn't have to be smooth sailing, that there can be nerves, there can be fear, as Niall and Dermot and Ellie shared before, but there's also an outward poise that you can present, while internally you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm the youngest, I'm the only girl, I'm in the heels, I've been here 20 minutes. But that you don't have to always indicate, and it's not about being disingenuous.
No.
It's about sharing selectively and being purposeful as you're speaking, because then that gives them a sense of, wow, look at her. She's got a level of comfort. Maybe you didn't feel it internally, but you demonstrated externally. And then from that day, how long were you with that organization? Lead us now into your own business.
Yeah, so I worked at that company for about 3.5 years. And finally, when I got off my friend's couch and got my own apartment, things did get a whole lot better. You know, I finally did get that career that I always had desired. I was traveling around the world. I was literally flying first class to like Singapore and Sydney and Dubai, and I was sitting down with CEOs of these international companies, helping them and advising them restructuring like billion-dollar debt. So it really did take off quite dramatically for me.
And some of the finance skills and the things that you learned from Deloitte, now you're layering on and you're applying it in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
But had you stayed with the one organization, you might not have been getting the extra adventure of travel that you wanted. So you're combining your interests with your abilities. Yeah,
and this has been, someone asked me this question before, are you not afraid about moving around too much, how that will look on your CV? I think, well, absolutely not, because it only adds. You know, making that decision to leave somewhere that I knew I wasn't going to be able to fulfill my potential and actually embark on a new journey that was very uncertain, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but I just took a chance and I followed my gut and my intuition, and it really led me to some incredible places.
And so when you've done that, and you've been advising these companies all around the world, at what point then did Laura Tynan say, I'd like to step out on my own? And what was that like emotionally?
Yeah, so, you know, this all came about, so I had been so focused. I was going to become a partner in the firm. I was on a fast track. I wanted to be a global leader. Like, I was a finance head. That's really where I wanted to be. And I remember in one of my first years over in London, my boss said, you know, there's a great event on at Bloomberg. It's a women's network event. You should go along. And honestly, Gina, like, as crazy as it sounds now, I had never been to a women's network event, and I actually didn't really know what it was or what we would be talking about.
Wow.
And so I went along, and I was like, okay, well, maybe it'll be a good chance to network and meet some people. And I sat there, and I remember this one woman came up on stage, and she shared these statistics and research. And she said, you know, at our current rate of progress, it will take about 120 years until we achieve equality in the workplace. And that really just hit me. And it was one of those really transformational moments for me. Because I thought, you know what? I can be having a good career, and that's all fine and nice to sit back and say, well, that's not my problem. But I thought, what about the next generation to come? Like, what if I have a daughter? Can I really look her in the face and say, I did nothing?
Yes.
You know, and I really felt compelled that I had to get involved and do something to make a difference. And that really was the catalyst for this journey I went on of, you know, engaging with partners and starting the network within my company and actually reaching out and mentoring women within my industry and hosting these events.
And so then did you ultimately put up your own shingle? How did that work?
Yeah, exactly. So that was really the kind of foundation for how my business started. And eventually that work became just like a passion within me. Like, I loved this type, what I was doing, and really the transformations I was able to create for the women I was working with. And, you know, last year I made the decision, I'm entering into my 30s, what do I want the next chapter of my life to look like? And so I said, this is really where I want to put all my energy, all my focus, is to make this my #1 priority. And my real mission is to actually help drive forward equality, help to support women to really stand in their power and to achieve all that they want in their own careers. And that's really why I started my own business.
That is excellent. And so let's talk a little bit about what your business, I know you've alluded to it through the mentoring and different programs that you were providing and working on when you were within the organization. And now over the last year, what is it that you provide? And how rewarding is that?
So I offer private coaching for women like around the globe, so for corporate women specifically. And I help them on career transition or career progress. You want to accelerate in the career, go for promotion, partner, things like that. But also women more specifically who actually want to step out of the corporate world and who want to start their own business. That's really where my passion lies, is really supporting them on that journey. So I do the one-to-one coaching, and I work with clients in the Middle East, across the Caribbean, in the States, in Europe, and it's amazing to have an online business where I really have the flexibility and freedom to do that. And then I also work with corporates, so I do a number of different workshops around public speaking, you know, mindset, resilience, how to come across with presence, which is so important because whether you have your own business or whether you're in a business, these are skills that really will serve you in so many different aspects.
And I think this is something that we certainly are in alignment about, because I work in this area as well. The idea that it is a skill.
It is.
Talk about how it is not just, I often get asked, oh, you either have it or you don't. And I have often said, and if you guys haven't seen me at these last Cubs things or haven't followed my writing or whatever, I grew up as a little girl in a tiny town in Indiana. I did not come from a family of power networkers or big business leaders or a background in television, which I ultimately became a television journalist in. But I had a desire and had a commitment, and I kept at it.
Yeah, 100%.
And developed these skills over time.
Yeah.
So for you, when you talk to your clients, what are the things that you encourage them on first, would you say?
Well, I'd love to pick up on that point as well, because,
please.
you know what, I came from a family that, there was no one working in corporate. There was no one who worked in finance. I didn't know anyone in the industry that I could leverage in terms of a network. So I was very much kind of feeling my way through it myself. And I hope if anyone is sitting here thinking, well, everyone else I know already has friends in the industry, or their mother or father knows someone and you don't, like, that is not a hindrance. It's not a hurdle. It's just more of something to inspire you to actually work harder, perhaps, which was the case for me. But in terms of actually what I work with clients, and it's very specific to what their specific needs are. So if it's a woman in corporate who wants to accelerate in her career, who wants to get ahead, then we'll get very clear on what her goals are, how we position her for promotion, how we can increase her visibility, her confidence, and to actually build out that network that she has internally and externally. If it's a woman who wants to start her own business, it's getting really clear on the why. Like, why do you want to start your own business? Because it's not an easy journey. It's not for the faint-hearted. And you have to be really clear on what motivates you. And it has to be more than just money.
Yes.
You have to have a bigger purpose for that.
Speaking of bigger purpose, let's make a bigger picture question now, because we do have questions coming in, which is exciting. Good for you guys. One of the questions we have is around the idea of the women who inspire you.
Yeah.
And as it was just this past Sunday, International Women's Day, is there a particular woman or man? I want to bring the men into this conversation too, because we can't do it without you. We need to do this together.
100%.
Who was or is one of your big inspirations? You talked about Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Is there someone else who's currently acting as a mentor to you, or that you take great inspiration from?
Yeah, actually my boss when I moved to London was an incredible mentor and sponsor and a form of inspiration for me. And I mean, I'm so glad you mentioned this point, because I think gender equality is the biggest gift that men will ever have, but they maybe just don't realize it yet.
Why so?
Because the reason that inequality exists is because we currently have these corporate structures that are set up to promote a very narrow definition of what a leader looks like, or what a CEO or a partner looks like, and what it means to be successful within those organizations. So not only do women not necessarily fit into that, but a lot of men don't either. Especially in today's world where men want different things. They don't want to fit into the 1980s, Don Draper-esque view of what a man working in a suit should look like. So this drive for equality and to break down those structures and actually to create a more fair playing field for everyone is going to serve everyone. And this is why anytime I talk about gender equality or supporting women in business, always bring men into this conversation, because we support each other, and it's not, us against you, or it's not like we're going to take away a piece of your pie or anything like that. It's very much about collaboration. Like, how do we make these corporations more healthy and more supportive of all of us, not just one type of person?
And the research shows today, especially in the millennial and the post-millennial generations, which many of you are a part of, that the demand for transparency within the company, finding the people behind the profession, is so important. And to do some of the things that you were sharing about already is to demonstrate your visibility and to be real and to be inspiring. Is there a way that, as you're working through and you're coaching inspiration and encouragement, then this is a question that came in through one of our members in the audience too, from Neve, or Neve, depending on your part of the country. Why do you guys do this to me? How do you personally handle your own doubt, self-doubt? We all encounter that. Don't be fooled that we don't. And when there is this gal who's coming off the tube in the rain, and that moment where you just want to maybe go back in and go back home to
go back home to Cork and be like, why did I try that?
Exactly. How do you push through your fear?
Yeah, I mean, I think fear is such an interesting thing, and it definitely comes up for all of us. And the sad truth is, it's never going to stop if you continue to grow. And I think once you realize that, fear is a really natural part of your growth. So if you want to move forward in your career, if you want to move forward in your life, if you're looking to achieve anything, fear is an automatic part of change. And to think that someone who might be successful, who you might admire, doesn't experience fear is ludicrous, even if they try and pretend that they don't, because it is actually a very natural body response. And it's only there to really protect us. And it goes back to centuries ago when they might have been, you know, wild bears or whatever it was trying to attack you, and fear came up to protect you because there was a change in your environment. In today's world, when we're, you know, driven and we're moving forward and we're ambitious and we're seeking a change, that same fear is triggered because there's a change in your environment. But it's to realize that that's a really natural part, and it's actually to see it as a sign that you're growing, that you're moving in the right direction, and it's a signal to really step up and lean in and not lean out. It's very, very natural to have it. But I think when you have that awareness of what it really is, you can embrace it and say, okay, this may feel really scary right now, but I know I'm heading in the right direction, and I know I can do this.
I really appreciate you sharing that, and I think that, too, the idea, I know Tony Robbins talks about acknowledging it, being aware of it, going, hey, look, here's that cloud of fear coming, and go, bye-bye, cloud. And the Buddhists, too, talk about your monkey brain, that there'll be questions and doubt from your past that you wish you would have done, or questions about the uncertainty, which we're certainly living in right now, of the future. And if we can focus and acknowledge both of those, but get out of the monkey brain and focus in on the things that we want to achieve, then that's going to help us go forward. And remember that you're not alone.
Oh,
when you're looking at your future, and not getting concerned about the monkey brain, but when you're looking toward your own future, and you talk about all the women and men too that you're coaching and you want to impact, what's your big goal, 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, so it's
That's a question that came in as well.
Oh, fantastic, yes. So I'm actually really excited to continue building out the coaching side of my business, because that is what I love to do, and to continue doing the workshops at corporates and travel more with my business. So I have a couple of opportunities coming up in Dubai, in America next year. It was meant to be China with Forbes, but unfortunately that got slightly delayed. But what I'm really excited about upcoming is I'm launching my own podcast, actually, like a lot of people these days. But it's called the Corporate Breakout Code. And really what that is to shine a light on the stories of very inspiring women from across the globe, across very different industries. So like media tech, fintech, beauty, jewelry, anything you can imagine. And to really share their stories about how they went from an employee to an entrepreneur, and what they did to actually break out of that corporate structure, in a sense, and start their own entrepreneurial journey. Because I think often, if we can see it, we can believe it. And I think one of the challenges for women often is that women, female entrepreneurs, are not portrayed in the media as frequently, often, as men. And I really wanted to change that and actually give an opportunity for younger women of any age, to learn and be inspired and understand that actually they can do it too.
Excellent. And the idea of they can do it too reminds me of the idea you mentioned, mentors you've had and how you're mentoring others. The importance of reaching out and getting a mentor. And it doesn't have to be a formal mentorship program. Talk about the importance of connecting and networking. I've asked it of the other ones as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you're working within any organization, you know, mentorship, sponsorship is really, really crucial for your own career progress, especially that sponsorship side as someone who's going to actually speak up and be your supporter within any promotion discussions, or even just to support you in getting those opportunities in the company that you really want. But even in your own life, if you want to start your own business or whatever you're pursuing, even if it's in your own personal life, having a mentor and having someone who's been down that path before you, who actually knows the hurdles, who knows the pitfalls, to actually be able to help you and forewarn you, like, don't go that direction, this is an easier route, this will help you get there faster. It really is just so invaluable, because it saves you so much time and heartache, and it can just help you achieve your goals so much faster.
Excellent. Helping you to achieve your goals faster, saving you from heartache. We have Laura Tynan. Thank you for this one-on-one question and answer. Thank you so much. Thank you.